I just wanted to thank you again for allowing me to observe your classroom again. And I just have some simple questions for you just to kind of go over your lesson, what I saw, what you saw, and what we can do to make sure that students are succeeding.
Okay.
So I gave you all your feedback yesterday. I sent everything to you, so you had a chance to kind of look over it. And then I'm just going to ask you some guiding questions that kind of reflect back to the ratings. So how do you think, I know the lesson was last week, but how do you think the lesson went, and how successful or unsuccessful, or what kind of things do you think went on?
So I think some of the things that went well were student engagement, and I think that was because of the different materials that were available for them. So they had opportunities to touch things, to see different things, and also I think what went well was my ability to capture notes. So having the clipboard and the different like things I could check off on the clipboard, different things I was looking to see were listed on the clipboard. So that was helpful. So I was able to capture a lot of different things.
Okay. And I know you talked about you being able to capture notes. Was there any kind of other evidence of student learning that you saw, or samples of it that you would have?
I don't think I had anything that was like physical, like a physical
Okay.
production of student work. So I think it was mostly just my capturing of the notes. Oh, actually, no, yeah.
What are you thinking?
I was thinking of when they were on the rug and the movement and everything, but that was just something I recorded.
What do you mean?
When they were moving for the sorting activity, what side that they moved to. But that
I would count that.
Yeah.
I would have counted
Okay.
that. I actually wrote that. Like,
Oh,
your exit
really?
ticket.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
So I would
Yeah.
have counted that as it only
Right.
because you got a whole group. So all the students individually had to make a choice,
Right.
and they were able to pick whatever side that they wanted to
Right.
to the object that they had.
Okay.
A piece of evidence could have just been a picture.
Yeah.
Even Miss Abrantes could have taken a picture,
Right.
and that would have been a solid piece of evidence. But because I was here, for me, that is evidence.
Right.
So of
Okay.
student learning. So
Yeah.
did my students get the objective I wanted to?
Right.
So, did you have to depart from your lesson?
I'm trying to think. I think in the small group there was a point where, it was kind of in my plan to. I noticed Namir was having trouble with telling me what he was seeing, and so I think it was him who I had point to. I asked him to point to something to show me. So that was kind of just a way to, like, another thing a strategy I could use just in case he wasn't getting it.
Okay. What did you learn from the informal assessment that you had on the carpet? So from that, we can separate. So let's do the carpet, and then we'll talk about the small group. So what, like, informal kind of assessment did you have, or did you make?
I think informally I got to see their interactions with peers and how they were. I noticed you put in the notes where, like, there was a point where someone needed a spot to sit, and so I got to see a student was making space for her and showing her that here's how we solve the problem. So
that was nice to see.
Yeah, and that wasn't obviously.
You probably didn't. Did you think about it? Did you?
No, I didn't. Yeah, so that was definitely, and just the way they did transition. So, like, moving throughout the room, like when we did the marching and having them, how were they managing working with other students to get from one space to another space in the classroom.
So what were your thoughts about the marching?
I'm trying to think back to that day. Sorry.
I know. I apologize because it was last week. And I guess because I have so many notes, I kind of captured catching everything.
I'm trying to think of that specific day, but I do know sometimes we do have trouble with that transition when we get back to the route.
Yes.
They're like, woo, open
So
space.
that day, and so even if you notice here, this is the only reason why. So that day, during the marching, someone pushed someone else.
Oh, okay.
It was, I don't remember the student. I feel like it was
I
true.
do remember.
Someone got pushed.
Yeah.
So it was that, and then it was another during choice time when you were working in a small group with the incident with the 2 girls.
Yes.
And then in the technology, the technology wasn't on.
And she was just sitting there.
And they were just sitting, the both of them, they were sitting there looking at the screen, and so I'm just like,
Yeah. Right.
So it's not the procedures. So like here, I wrote that I felt like you were effective in this area because you do have the classroom policies and the procedures. You have them. It's just being able to manage them. Yes.
Right.
Because you have them in place.
Yes.
You do. And so just making sure you're executing them.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's something I feel like I want to work on more because I am noticing certain things like they might not necessarily follow the procedure if I'm not looking.
Exactly. So then what can you do to make sure that that students know the procedure and the policy?
Well, talk about the importance of it.
Talk about the importance. Talk about it every day.
Yeah.
Every day. Maybe even
like why are we doing this?
Why and what time of day do you think would be the best to talk about it?
First thing in the morning.
First thing. When there's another time. What's another time you think?
When they wake up from rest.
Maybe, but I feel like a bigger time that would be
before they go to choice time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I think that would be the best time.
Yeah.
So of course you want to talk about it in your group meeting, but then they go outside, they do this, they do a lot of things in between. Right. So right before you're gonna send them off to choice time, review it again.
Yeah.
You know, have those solution kit cards, especially in your larger areas. You want to make sure you have them there. You have them, right?
I only have it up there.
You only have one copy?
Yeah.
So I can provide you with more copies of that.
Oh, thank you.
No problem.
Yeah, that is one thing I've been thinking about a lot lately, though, because I'm noticing, like, some of them are sticking their tongues out at each other a lot, and they're, like, looking at me, and then they're like, and then I'm like, I saw that.
The solution kit. I mean, you have the second step kit. Pull those out. Like, whenever you see a behavior, or you might want to be proactive instead of waiting for the behavior. But just, if you did one skill a week. Yeah. Because that's going to come out next year as well. So that's going to be full blown. So,
where did I hear that from?
From
I heard
me.
that. Oh, yeah? Okay.
Because I took account.
Yes.
And so it's funny because the next question talks about your classroom policy and procedure, and we kind of already went over that.
Yeah.
So if you had to teach this lesson again to the same group of students, what would you do differently? So let's talk about your large group, and then we'll go into the small group. Yeah.
Okay, so anytime we have a sort of transition, like the marching, I would probably slow it down a little bit and just talk a little bit more about how we need to be careful when we're walking. There's a lot of us walking around the room, and then when we come back, what I expect of them and how they need to sit. And then also going into just what we talked about, like, why are we doing this? And then for the small group, I would think of individualizing a little bit more just because, I think generally they were engaged, but I do think there was, like, a couple, like, maybe 1 or 2 of them who were kind of maybe needed to revisit expectations a little bit about just, where they're looking, or even with the whole group, just maybe that it needs to be like a more quiet choice time in the morning.
But you had limited choice.
Yeah.
I felt like that's honestly as quiet as it's gonna get. The noise level wasn't a concern for me.
Okay.
It wasn't. I think your noise level in the afternoon.
Whew, yeah.
But then it's also because you're pulling a group, but that's only one group. So then there's still 10 more kids. So this time we both had groups, so it was only 5 kids hanging around. So it's a little quieter.
Right. Yeah, they're getting so chatty lately. They're like
That's
forming
good,
these
though.
friendships. No, it is great.
That's
like
good.
Judah's saying sentences. So
That's exciting.
Yeah.
I think it went well. The one thing I would have liked to see is because you did talk about textures.
Yeah.
So your main lesson was on textures, but they didn't sort with textures.
Right.
So that was the only thing. If you had to do it again, I would have loved to see them see if they can figure out texture, because they did the sorting by clothes, but it's kind of shirt and pants. I'm pretty sure they're very familiar with that.
Yeah.
So what could you do to challenge them and that's what I'm thinking. The texture I think would challenge them a little bit more.
Yeah. And that was my first time doing sorting with them too.
Oh, it was?
Yeah. So having something that's kind of like familiar to them might be good for like the first, but like
but moving on,
forward,
so if you were to do it again,
and write the materials too. That was another thing, just having
enough,
materials. Yeah.
But then you can also use everyday things. So like you could have used some Velcro because the hard texture and the soft texture.
Tons of Velcro.
So just don't peel it off yet. We're just using, but teaching them that
stuff's expensive.
It is. It's very expensive. Or that would probably be like a small group activity to reinforce that.
Right.
And then your small group with your environmental print. What's something you think you would do differently?
Oh, like how we spoke about the having materials that might be more common.
Exactly, for them. Just really having familiar items, things that they see, maybe a McDonald's sign or a Burger King, like things that Home Depot's right there, things that they see every day, would help with that. And the last question, how was my feedback helpful?
Oh, it was really helpful. Well, from the first observation, talking about note-taking and things like that was really helpful. So I definitely tried to bring that in more to this observation and just in teaching in general. And then just what we talked about with student behavior and how, to get them to follow the expectations when I'm not looking and gain the skill, not just I'm pleasing my teacher.
Exactly, I'm making my teacher happy.
Yeah.
And even with the note-taking, so for me, the note-taking, it's such at a high level for me only because this is how you're gearing instruction.
Yeah.
So without these notes, without you entering it on gold, without you scoring them, how are you going to group them?
Right.
So how do you know what they need next week or the week after if you aren't able to capture those notes?
Yeah.
So even if it's something such as a picture, okay, they were able to sort something simple objects or your written notes or Mr. Bronte's notes. Using all that data to kind of help drive your instruction.
Right. And I'm trying to get better at the multitasking component because
that's
everywhere. The part that gets me because I'm like, I'm trying to teach here. I'm trying to be in the moment. So
it's
for
hard
me
to be in the moment.
It really, if I'm talking to you right now and I'm doing this, it's gonna decrease your
especially with them
in the conversation.
But then also,
but I'm getting better at looking at them and still doing it and still kind of finding the moment that would be most optimal to take the note.
That's why I think I when I taught, I did a lot of pictures.
Okay.
So I'll just take a quick picture and then I'll write it up later because
really
I have the evidence.
Yeah.
So, or even a video.
Yeah.
Because you can do videos on gold. You can upload them.
Right.
So something like that. Just make it a little easier for yourself. But okay, that's it for this, and then we'll talk about.
Cool.
Thank you so much.
No problem.